Picture this: you're standing in the TSA security line at the airport. You've got your driver's license ready in your hand, just like you've done for decades. But when you get to the front of the line, there's no TSA agent checking your ID. Instead, there's a camera pointed right at your face, and a screen telling you to look directly into it. You glance around, confused. Nobody said anything about this. There's no sign explaining what's happening. Everyone else is just staring into the camera and walking through. You look for someone to ask, but the TSA agent is standing 3 feet away, arms crossed, watching the screen instead of talking to passengers. For a split second, you feel like you're in some kind of sci-fi movie. But this isn't the future. This is happening right now at airports across America, and most travelers have no idea they have a choice in the matter. My name is Dave, and I spend way too much time thinking about airport security policies and how they affect regular travelers like you and me. If you're someone who values your privacy, wants to understand what's really happening when you go through airport security, or just feels like these changes are moving way too fast without anyone asking your permission, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Today, we're talking about something that's going to affect every single person watching this video, whether you fly once a year or once a month. It's a massive shift in how airport security works in the United States, and it's happening quietly, without fanfare, and without most travelers even realizing what they're agreeing to. The change that's already here. Here's the thing: by 2026, biometric facial recognition is set to become the default way you prove your identity at US airports. Not optional. Not a special program you sign up for. The default. Let me be clear about what this means. Right now, when you go through TSA security, you hand your ID to a human being who looks at your face, looks at your photo, and waves you through. In the very near future, and this is already happening at dozens of airports, that human interaction is being replaced by a camera that scans your face, compares it to a database of photos, and decides whether you're allowed to proceed. Your face becomes your boarding pass. Your face becomes your passport. Your face becomes your ticket through every checkpoint in the airport. Now, I know what some of you are thinking: Dave, that sounds convenient. Faster lines, less fumbling with documents, right? And look, that's exactly what they want you to think. That's the story being sold to us. The TSA and airlines are promoting this as a seamless, modern travel experience. Faster security lines. No more digging through your bag for your ID. Just smile, or actually, don't even smile, just look at the camera and go. But here's what they're not telling you in those glossy promotional videos. The real story behind the cameras. Listen, I'm going to be straight with you. This isn't really about your convenience. This is about 3 things: automation, cost reduction, and control. Think about it from the airlines and TSA's perspective. Every human agent checking IDs costs money. Salaries, benefits, training, bathroom breaks. A camera system? Once it's installed, it runs 24/7 without asking for a raise. The TSA has been under pressure for years to process more passengers with fewer staff. Facial recognition solves that problem for them, not for you. According to the Department of Homeland Security's own reports, TSA is already testing facial recognition at over 84 airports across the United States. They've scanned millions of passengers. And the expansion is accelerating. But here's the kicker: in many cases, passengers don't even realize they're being scanned. There's no big sign saying, "You are now entering facial recognition checkpoint." There's just a camera where the agent used to be. The official line from TSA is that this technology will reduce identity fraud and make security more accurate. And sure, maybe it does those things. But what they emphasize less is the massive database this creates. Every time you walk through that checkpoint, your face is being captured, analyzed, and compared against government databases. Where does that data go? How long is it stored? Who else can access it? These are questions that don't have clear, consistent answers yet. You're right to opt out, but only if you know about it. Now, here's where this gets really interesting. And this is the part one need you to pay attention to, because this is information they're definitely not advertising on the big screens at the airport. You have the right to opt out. Let me say that again, louder for the people in the back. You have the legal right to refuse facial recognition screening and request a traditional ID check by a human agent. But, and this is a massive but, you have to speak up. You have to ask for it. The system is designed so that opting out requires you to actively assert your rights. There's no checkbox on your airline ticket. There's no screen that says, "Would you prefer human verification?" You have to see the camera, recognize what's happening, and tell the TSA agent you want manual ID verification instead. This is what I call opt-out by obstacle course. Technically, the right exists. Practically, it's hidden behind layers of inconvenience and social pressure. Think about the setup for a minute. You're in a security line with 50 people behind you. Everyone's moving through quickly. The TSA agent is gesturing you forward toward the camera. You're not sure if you're allowed to say no. You don't want to hold up the line. You don't want to be that person causing problems. So what do most people do? They just look at the camera and move along. That's intentional design. According to a 2024 report from the Government Accountability Office, fewer than 2% of passengers at airports with facial recognition systems were aware they could opt out. 2%. That means 98 out of every 100 people going through these checkpoints have no idea they have a choice. The European warning sign. Now you might be thinking, okay Dave, but if this is such a problem, wouldn't we have heard more about it? Wouldn't there be more pushback? Great question. And to answer it, I want to take you across the Atlantic for a minute, because Europe is a cautionary tale we need to pay attention to. About 5 years ago, several European airports started introducing biometric screening systems. Just like here, it was sold as optional. A convenience for travelers who wanted faster processing. Smart gates for those who preferred them. Traditional lines for those who didn't. Two parallel systems, coexisting happily. Here's what happened: within 2 years, the traditional lines started disappearing. Not officially closed, just understaffed. Made slower. More inconvenient. At Heathrow Airport in London, for example, passengers who opted out of facial recognition in 2022 reported wait times 3 to 4 times longer than the biometric lines. When one option is consistently faster and easier, people stop choosing the other option, even if they have concerns. By 2024, many major European airports had made biometric screening effectively mandatory for most travelers. Sure, you could technically still opt out, but good luck finding a human agent, and enjoy your 90-minute wait in the special procedures line while everyone else breezes through. The playbook is this: introduce it as optional. Make the optional version so convenient that adoption spreads quickly. Gradually reduce support for the traditional system. And within a few years, what started as a choice becomes the only practical option. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's happening in the United States right now. The privacy question nobody's answering. Look, I'm not a privacy lawyer, and I'm not here to tell you whether you should or shouldn't use facial recognition. But I am here to make sure you understand what you're agreeing to when you look into that camera. Here's what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know. What we know. When you use facial recognition at TSA, your image is captured and compared against photos from your passport, driver's license, or visa. TSA states that photos of US citizens are deleted after verification, supposedly within 12 hours for domestic flights. For international travelers, Customs and Border Protection can store biometric data for up to 75 years. What we don't know. How these systems are secured against hacking or unauthorized access. Which other government agencies might have access to this facial recognition database? Whether these photos are truly deleted or if deletion means something different in government database terms. How the technology performs across different demographics, and studies have shown facial recognition is less accurate for people with darker skin tones, older adults, and women. And here's the thing that should concern everyone: this data isn't just sitting in isolation. With Real ID enforcement coming into full effect, there's now a standardized, nationwide database of identity documents. Add facial recognition on top of that, and you've created an incredibly powerful surveillance infrastructure. I'm not being paranoid here. I'm being realistic. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, and multiple congressional representatives have raised serious concerns about these systems. In 2024, senators raised questions about whether TSA had the authority to implement facial recognition without explicit congressional approval. These are legitimate questions that don't have clear answers yet. The Real ID connection. Speaking of Real ID, let's talk about how this all connects, because it's not a coincidence that biometric screening is ramping up just as Real ID enforcement is becoming universal. Starting May 7, 2025, you need a Real ID compliant driver's license or another approved form of ID to board domestic flights. If you don't have one, you can't fly. That deadline has been pushed back multiple times, but it's happening. Real ID creates a standardized format for state-issued IDs with enhanced security features and verified identity information. On its own, it's presented as an anti-fraud measure. But when you combine standardized identity documents with facial recognition technology, you've built the perfect system for automated identity verification. Here's how it works. Your Real ID compliant driver's license has a digital photo that meets specific standards. That photo goes into a database. When you walk up to a facial recognition camera at the airport, the system pulls your photo from that database and compares it to your live face in real time. Match? You proceed. No match? You get pulled aside. The TSA says this makes fraud harder. And maybe it does. But it also makes it incredibly easy to track who's flying where, when, and how often, all without any human discretion or ability to account for special circumstances. What you can actually do about this. Alright, enough of me telling you what's wrong. Let's talk about what you can actually do. First, know your rights. You have the right to opt out of facial recognition at any point during airport screening. This includes TSA security checkpoints, airline boarding gates, customs and immigration, though this one is trickier for non-citizens. Second, know how to exercise those rights. When you approach a facial recognition checkpoint, politely but firmly say to the TSA agent, "I'd like to opt out of facial recognition and have my ID checked manually." You don't need to give a reason. You don't need to explain yourself. You have the right to request this, period. Yes, the agent might look confused. Yes, it might take an extra 2 minutes. Yes, people behind you in line might be annoyed. But you're not doing anything wrong. You're exercising a legal right that you're entitled to use. Third, document your experience. If you opt out and face any resistance, pushback, or unusual delays, note the airport, date, time, and what happened. Organizations like the ACLU and Electronic Frontier Foundation are tracking these incidents because they're trying to ensure TSA is actually honoring opt-out rights consistently. Fourth, spread the word. Most people don't know they can opt out. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Share this video. The more people who know about their rights, the harder it becomes for those rights to quietly disappear. Fifth, stay informed. This situation is evolving rapidly. TSA policies can change. New airports can add facial recognition systems. Congressional oversight can increase or decrease. Follow organizations that track this issue and pay attention to what's happening. The bigger picture. Here's what I want you to understand: this isn't just about cameras at airports. This is about the kind of society we're building and whether we're building it with informed consent or just because everyone else is doing it. I'm not anti-technology. I'm not saying facial recognition is inherently evil. But I am saying that we, as travelers and citizens, deserve to know what we're agreeing to. We deserve clear information about how our data is used, stored, and protected. We deserve the ability to make real choices, not just theoretical choices that are practically impossible to exercise. The airlines and TSA want you to see this as inevitable progress. Cameras replacing people, automation replacing human judgment, efficiency replacing privacy. And maybe, for some people, that trade-off is worth it. But it should be a choice you make with full information, not something that just happens to you while you're trying to catch a flight. Look, I know this video might have made some of you uncomfortable. That's okay. These are uncomfortable topics. But you know what's more uncomfortable? Waking up 5 years from now and realizing we've built a massive surveillance system without ever really discussing whether that's what we wanted. Here's my challenge to you: the next time you fly, pay attention to what's happening at the security checkpoint. Look for the cameras. Ask questions. And if you feel comfortable doing so, exercise your right to opt out, not because you have something to hide, but because you have the right to choose. Travel should be about freedom, the freedom to explore, to visit family, to see the world. Let's make sure we're not trading that freedom for convenience without at least understanding the price we're paying. If this video helped you understand what's happening with airport facial recognition, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want more honest talk about travel rights and senior travel tips that nobody else is explaining. And drop a comment below. I want to know, have you encountered facial recognition at the airport? Did you know you could opt out? What do you think about all this? Safe travels, everyone. And remember, knowledge is power, especially when you're dealing with an airport security system that's changing faster than most people realize. I'll see you in the next video.